So many orifices.
Put it in the poopa. What is up, Internet?
Yo.
It's your boy Brando and Christopher House.
Yep.
And we're here with another episode of the Otaku Remix Podcast. Not talking about anime.
Or anything Japanese.
Or anything Japanese at all. The only thing Japanese in this movie is
dead men.
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
Ronin Hawkeye.
Yep. But we are here to talk about the explosive blockbuster of the generation. Possibly.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Avengers Endgame.
Yes. Endgame. Do we want to preface this by even talking about Infinity War? Because I feel like you have to talk about Infinity War before
Infinity
you talk
War
about
will
Endgame.
bleed into this, but today's conversation will be mostly focused on Endgame with supplementary material from Infinity War. Spoilers ahead,
For
obviously.
everything Marvel related.
So
I'm not going to censor myself on anything Marvel.
Yes,
So if you have not seen any of the movies, this might be you might be spoiled on
we will be
something.
covering the entirety of the Infinity Saga, all 22 films to date. 23 potentially. I think I might have gotten the number skewed somewhere, but you know what I mean. Everything up until Endgame is going to be on the table. So guys, if there's anything that you're a little squeamish about, if there's something you haven't seen, go back and do that if you're really worried. But if not, full speed ahead. Let's get into it.
All right.
So you and I, Christopher, we just went, not just went, it was a couple days ago, but this past Sunday, opening weekend for Avengers Endgame, got a chance to go see it with some of our friends and loved ones. And, gosh, let's just start with the impression.
Oh, the impression.
How did you feel leaving that movie theater?
I felt like satisfied, and it was great. It wasn't quite as exhilarating of a end as Infinity War. Like Infinity War made me wonder what was going to happen next in the in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now, as it appropriately should, Endgame is more of a period where it's like this is the end of this era of Marvel. Even though they're saying Far From Home is going to be the actual end of the current
the Infinity Saga, as they're calling it now.
As they're calling it. But yeah, no, this feels like the conclusion to a bunch of stuff.
I could see that, yeah.
Specifically Iron Man, Captain America, and to a much lesser extent Thor. Because Thor seems like he's going to continue. Yeah,
definitely see the conclusion of so many characters. And I had the same feeling as yourself. Like Infinity War had such a strong cliffhanger. This is very much the conclusion of everything that we've known to date. I think that's a big reason why they didn't want to do any sort of post-credit scene where like those allude to something in the future, a continuation of sorts. Instead, no post-credit scene of any type, just the banging, which is widely believed to be the metal banging, which is widely believed to be Iron Man crafting the first Iron Man suit.
I listened to it. It's pretty similar.
Yeah, something like that, or at least to allude to that,
Yeah.
to kind of pay tribute to the fallen hero, which had begun this whole grand tapestry of movies.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good way to put it, especially with this movie, because this movie is a celebration of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, for sure.
Every bit. Like,
some of it borders on the like fan service scenes for the sake of fan service scenes.
I can't think of any, but I can think of, like, I'm sure there's one or two. But, like, for the most part, I think it's very tastefully done.
Oh, yeah. Nothing is so jarring that it kind of pulls me out of the movie. Most of it's cute. Like we mentioned earlier, that Hail Hydra moment for Cap.
Oh, well, that's outside the MCU.
Yeah.
But what's funny is there's two references. One is a reference to the MCU, which is the famous Winter Soldier elevator scene.
Yeah.
Where Cap steps into the elevator full of the same Hydra goons.
Yeah.
That he beats up in Winter Soldier. Instead, this time, during the time period of the first Avengers movie, and you think like the exact same scene is going to happen. And instead, he does it. He resolves things peacefully by hailing Hydra.
Yeah. It's a great scene,
which is a great little nod to the comic, to the controversial comic line. Yeah, it's a great little scene. There's a bunch of stuff like that, and like it really is a movie where if you haven't been keeping up with things, you're going to get lost. Tilda Swinton's character, the Sorcerer Supreme, just comes in, no explanation.
Yeah.
She's just like, we need your stone.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And then like astral projects banner, and it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah, there's a lot of it's breakneck. Honestly, for a longer film, this is like 3 hours and change, like 3 hours and 15 minutes or so. Despite being a chunkier film than Infinity War, lengthwise, at times the pace seems a lot tighter and a lot more breakneck. Even
it's because there's 3 different arcs, not acts. Like the way that films are usually deconstructed is in acts. This one actually has 3 different arcs, and each arc has 3 acts.
Yes.
So it's almost like we're seeing like 3 different short
The
films.
9-act structure is definitely one that people have. Like, there's a couple ways that people break down film. The 3-1 is the 3-act structure is the most popular. The 9-act is obviously like a more segmented version. There's a 5-act structure. Wait, is it?
5-act structure is better used for like masterpiece films.
And I feel like it's good for the analysis of the body of a film, the middle third portion, which I feel like most of those additions, the 2 through 4.
It's good for character-based, character-centered films where you're following one character's like rise, fall, and so on and so forth.
Well, we can get into that another time. You were saying that this is like 3-act structure with...
This is a 3-arc structure.
3-arc structure with another...
3 acts in every arc. So the first act revolves around the aftermath of Infinity War, with the first part of that arc, the first act of that arc being, we gotta go get Thanos. They do that, it resolves, and it's a very unsatisfying conclusion because Thanos has destroyed the stones, and we kill him, but it doesn't resolve anything.
Yeah.
The second act of that arc is dealing with, 5 years later, the aftermath of, continuing to deal with the aftermath of Thanos' actions, where everybody's at, specifically with Hawkeye, Captain America, concluding that act on Ant-Man returning to reality.
Yeah, that's the end of
returning out of the quantum realm, and it ends with the idea that maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope.
You know, the Russo brothers said that of those 14 million permutations that Doctor Strange saw, the only one that they succeed in is the one where the rat presses the button.
Yeah. And that, I mean, it's like, so like, I rolled my eyes when I was in the film, and then when I remembered that line, it's like, no, it's 1 in 14 million. And it's like, that's why, because it's so, like, the stars
random.
have to align perfectly.
Yeah, just for Ant-Man to come back.
Yeah.
That's why, like, even when Iron Man's described, he's like, you coming back, and this is a fucking cosmic fluke, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, but it's been 5 years since the events happened, and I get that Tony has, like, not maybe forgotten, but maybe, like, not have it on the tip of his mind.
Oh, yeah. He's not thinking, like, this is it. This is the moment. Like, I think he probably knew it was the moment when he figured out time travel. Like, when he, like, kind of, like, connected the dots. And he's like, oh, shit, too many things.
I have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
Yeah. He's like, fuck
and
it.
that's the end of the first arc of this movie, is that, like, when Tony realizes there is hope.
Yeah.
It's like the end of A New Hope, where it's like, not exactly, but follow me here, where it's like, the Empire is so strong, they have this massive weapon, there's nothing we can do about it. Oh, it turns out there's this one chance, and we gotta go for it. And that's where our first hour of the movie is centered.
And if I could pull it, like, into a different analysis of Tony's character, in, like, a majority of the comics that I've read and, like, that are kind of focused on Tony Stark, and it's mostly about a very selfish character finding selflessness, you know, dealing with his own vices, whether it be alcoholism or what have you, and then kind of overcoming them to be a great hero, and to be a better person. And that's, like, kind of what they encapsulate in the first phase of the MCU for Marvel. You know, you have this very selfish, egotistical guy, and it all comes to a nice crescendo in the first Avengers, where he's like this guy who wants to call the shots, and he's like kind of an egomaniac, you know, the billionaire playboy philanthropist, and all of a sudden he's the guy at the end willing to sacrifice himself by pulling the nuke into the space. And then ever since then, he's the his foil of character is that he's not too selfless, but exactly how they describe it at the end of Endgame, where he's or like even when he has that conversation with his father, the self-betterment of, like, other people always gets in the way of his own self-interest, you know, or like he's always trying to do good, and it always comes at a personal cost, you know, like his personal relationships and things in his own life.
And even when he tries to, like, help people, like, because he described, I don't know who described him as such, but he is a futurist, where he thinks about what's going to happen, and he tries to prevent the events of Infinity War long before we even know what's going on in Infinity War.
Yeah.
But he doesn't take into account what other people want to do.
Mm-hmm.
He only thinks his plan is the best plan, and that's what they need to go with.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not overtly selfish, but it still is because like he's not taking into account others.
No, the will and opinion of other people. Yeah, he's such an egoist, and combined with the ideas that he wants to push for the future, that it's a volatile mix. But at the same time, it's part of who he is and kind of what makes him endearing because like he's so forthright about it.
Yeah. And if he wasn't so right all the time, it'd be easier to hate on him.
Yeah, I mean, when he enters, that's in the first part of the film, like when he makes it back to Earth, and he like him and Cap get right into it because he has the sourest "I told you so" ever.
Oh my god, it's so painful. It's so like, and it's like it's kind of the climax of that arc.
Yeah, it's the emotional peak
where you have people finally coming back together, and like this is the first time Stark and Cap have been in the same room since Civil War, which is like how many movies ago now?
I don't know, 4.
Are they 4
at least?
And Stark just gets right into him, and he because everybody's feeling failure, and even then Tony has like the not gall, but it's like he's in pain, so he's like lashing out. And it's like, just to go, you fucked up. I told you so. I told you so. And now that you didn't listen to me, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that really works in that first 45 minutes. It kind of just has this nice little wrap up, where so like I think of like because you guys are watching Game of Thrones now, right? And like that's where the episode would end, is Tony realizing that he's solved time travel.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, kind of. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
like the episode begins with Hawkeye and like all that.
If it was an hour episode of a Game of Thrones, I imagine that'd be a satisfying conclusion. Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I think about this movie as. I
like
think
3 episodes.
Like it's all part of the same theme and whatnot, but like that's why it's not as to jump ahead to what our overall thought about the movie is. Like we don't think the movie's as concise as Infinity War, because Infinity War has like one focus. It has one subject, and that's Thanos and his pursuit for this goal. Yeah,
for the snap. And yeah, I feel like that really helps ground the film. You and I will probably go into it as we go through this conversation, but yeah, I think that Infinity War as a whole is a better film in some ways from a structural standpoint. However, Endgame is filled with so much catharsis, so much biased fan moments for myself, and emotional payoff for stories that we've been following for so long, that I feel like there are just these strong emotional ties that I have to the film that supersede what I can experience in like, sure, I can say like Baby Driver or like any other film I could see, like if I go and pop on like on Netflix or HBO and say like that's a better film than Endgame from a structural standpoint, but doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy it as much as Endgame, you know?
Yeah, and at the same time, I don't think like judging it as a film kind of works.
No,
from that standard.
It's like
because it's not trying to be that.
It's like an event.
It's an event.
Yeah,
and,
like,
That's why I really want to put it in like when I'm categorizing it as this like 3 arc movie. Like it's just so overwhelming at times. It could be, but it didn't feel like it in the theater at least.
No, yeah, it didn't feel like it. And honestly, I don't like to rewatch films for the necessity of it. But I really truly believe with a film that's this dense, I really would like to go back to the theater and revisit it and see if I gather anything else new from it.
Okay.
So I probably will revisit it whilst it's in theaters, and I'm sure it'll have a long theatrical run.
Oh my god, people are making bank on this film.
Yep. And I'm gonna contribute my small
$15.
My small $15 to the Empire. Pay my tribute to the mouse and go ahead and see the Super People one more time. And kind of just gather my thoughts about it, because I really feel like there's a lot going on in Avengers Endgame that we may miss. And if any of you would like to shout out what we do miss, please do. But let's go into this the second arc. I feel like it's naturally where you're kind of going with this.
Yeah, the time heist.
The time heist.
Which, when they said it, I was so happy about.
I was like, this is very Ant-Man.
Yeah, and it's because I'll be honest, I haven't loved any of the Ant-Man movies. They're probably my least favorite of the Marvel movies.
That's fair.
Despite like how much charm and personality they have, they're just so appropriately to the character insignificant. that it just kind of becomes hard to become invested. Plus, they I think they're just missing a few like talented writers. Like I really wish Edgar Wright had been allowed to finish his script.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Though to be honest, I think that his work definitely shines through in Ant-Man 1.
The tone shines through. I think it's just like some of the word choice and wordplay is not as like.
It's not as sharp, and
as
he would have edited the fuck out of that movie.
Yeah, and that's what it kind of needed at times.
Yeah.
Like, there's one really good moment in the first Ant-Man that's really well edited, and that's the what's the Hispanic fella?
Oh my god, shit.
Well, it's his friend's storytelling moment. We'll bring up the actor's name just out of respect.
Michael Pena.
Michael Pena's like storytelling moment is really well edited, but other than that, the rest of the movie doesn't have that same sort of flow, which it needed. But I like the idea of a heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love heist movie.
Heist, like Ocean's 11 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
That shit.
Honestly, the three of them are like really, really fun movies. I know 12 and 13 aren't as well done.
It's kind of why I like Solo.
So you know what? When you think about Solo in that aspect, it's great.
Yeah.
It's just when the SJW robot comes in, it's like, oh no, why?
Have some autonomy. And I'm like, Jesus.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Anyway,
back to Time Heist. But yeah, so the only, and I was listening to actually Red Letter Media's review of this movie.
Okay.
And like I don't agree with a lot of their opinions on certain things.
Okay.
But I respect them.
Yeah.
And one thing they brought up, I think it was it was Mike, brought up about this movie is that since the Time Heist arc is a heist movie, it would have been nice to see a bit more of the planning stage, like in detail before it was executed.
Huh.
Because
more, you say?
The reason why is because, like, for example, I'll bring up Ocean's 11. The reason why Ocean's 11 works so well is because you get a whole slew of like how this is supposed to go perfectly, how this plan is supposed to go perfectly.
Yeah.
And the dramatic tension then comes from when it doesn't go perfectly.
Yeah, I know. It's 2/3 of the film is planning, all the complications of planning.
Yeah.
All the story implications of the overall, plot, like everything that is tied into this heist and the scheme.
Yeah.
And then the final third is usually the execution of it. And with this Time Heist, I felt like there was a decent amount of preparation. Probably not so much to really kind of bank on it when it kind of really executes, since you said it's like the whole heist is 1/3 of the film.
Yeah. And like, so when things go awry in the heist,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, now this happened. Like, there's no dramatic tension for it to happen. We don't think things are going to go wrong because we don't know how they can go wrong.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I guess
It's a very minor nitpick, but just like,
no, I feel you. I definitely think there was a nice little planning segment where they're kind of like going through where the Infinity Stones are going. They're kind of like, laying on tables together while bouncing around, giving their monologues of where they were at each time. It's a nice little, another fun moment in the communal element of that. You get to see all the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe again in everyone's perspective, and there's some funny moments in there where Thor is just straight Lebowski, and then just all the way. Same thing with what did Rocket call? He called Paul Rudd a puppy.
Oh yeah. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I can see how it doesn't have all the impact of a heist movie. It has the tone though, which I appreciate, which is a nice little shift, because for a film that's coming off the tails of Infinity War, which should be very dour, and it definitely is emotionally dour for the first third, and that first scene really punches you in the gut hard.
The first scene of Endgame.
First scene of Endgame, yeah. This film, Endgame as a whole, is kind of not exactly joyous, but rather light.
It truly, I say celebration, and I mean it, where it's like, it really is like all these moments that bring you nostalgic joy.
Yeah.
Character moments that have payoffs and a bunch of stuff. So it's definitely not, I don't want to say lighthearted, but it's definitely more...
it's very celebratory. It bounces all from the highs and the lows. Like, you're going physically to the sets of Avengers, to Guardians of the Galaxy, to Thor 2, a film that many people don't really remember or like, but you were going back for the significance of it. Just, to ground Thor's character a little bit more and his mother. And that's...
Oh, yeah. I love that scene between him and his mom.
Yeah, very sweet.
It's such a weird thing, because like Thor as a character has gone through so much change, probably the most actual change in the MCU. Because
let's take a quick aside for Thor, really, and those changes. Like, he's gone through a very straight character for the first 4 appearances, I would say. 3, 4? Yeah, 4 appearances between his 2 films and his 2 Avenger films. very kind of like Shakespeare in the Park, kind of like serious character. And then finally with Ragnarok, you have that first break in the character where you have this sort of lovable oaf, kind of very selfless, not selfish kind of character, not as self-important, more self-aware of what he means to be a hero, and the very natural comedic side to him. And then you have Endgame. Well, he gets that version of Thor. You get that in Ragnarok and in Infinity War.
Yes.
And then in Endgame, you have this really...
You already see it turning in Infinity War, though, because I see where you're going in Endgame.
Yes.
Because in Infinity War, he's beaten immediately.
Yes,
by Thanos,
and harsh.
And harshly, and loses a lot.
Yeah.
And from there on in Infinity War, because you see it in his communication and his dialogue with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, with Rocket, when he is like, he kind of breaks down. He's like, what more can I lose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with like Chris Pratt, whereas before he would be kind of playful, he's a bit more standoffish, and understandably so. But he's definitely not like as lighthearted.
Yeah, yeah.
He's trying to play lighthearted at times, especially with Rocket. But like underneath, you can feel his pain.
Yes.
And it really comes to a conclusion in Endgame where he is just depressed.
Yeah, you can't even say Thanos in his house. He's completely wallowing in self-pity and in Fortnite.
And yeah, that's come full circle as well. Where Thanos was put into Fortnite when Infinity War came out. And now that Endgame is out, Fortnite's in Endgame.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's freaking...
But
oh, product placement. I don't know if that's even product placement. I wonder if that's just cross marketing.
Perhaps.
Anyway, honestly, that's probably the worst part about that movie for me. For Endgame, that's probably my least favorite. Where it's like, oh, they're gonna new Master 69,
where Thor is calling out some gamer over the internet. Oh man, yeah,
that's gonna date so hard.
Yeah, it's gonna date pretty hard, but still,
I'm sorry. Continuing with the time heist. Or no, continuing with Thor as a character.
Yeah, this mini analysis of Thor's evolution, yeah. So, like, him becomes this, like, super mournful, self-pitying character in this film, and kind of has to go through the evolution of, I guess, feeling worthy again. Because he is worthy, but, you know, he feels the guilt of not going for the head initially, and then going for the head and feeling like it was worth nothing, and it was just a stamp on his failure. Yeah. And then to finally have that sweet character moment with his mother, and then to kind of elevate himself back up to, I guess, serviceable means.
Yeah, but it's only by shedding his character, because his conversation with his mother is like, I'm constantly failing as King of Asgard.
Yeah.
Like everything that's happened to me, even when I have a good attitude towards it, it's like things just keep not working out for me. And it's like, honestly, that's fine. It happens. Maybe, and his mom, in a very kind and very like adult way, kind of tells him like, you know, maybe it's not what you're meant to be.
Yeah. Just
because you have power just because you're strong doesn't mean you should lead necessarily.
Yeah, or that like because the expectation
or you need to be
is
responsible. You know?
Yeah. Even if there's the expectation that you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, like people expect you to be Thor, you know, King of Asgard. Maybe you're just Thor as Guardian of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And so for this movie, he after that encounter with his mother, he kind of sheds that character as Thor, King of Asgard, and instead is just Thor, God of Thunder.
Yeah. Kicker of ass, taker
of names.
Yeah, so
wielder of two weapons.
For a moment before lending it to another.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a fun character moment. A lot of the characters go through a nice little evolution through the film, or at least a finale of their characters.
Yeah.
Thor, I think, gets to evolve a little bit more because his character continues to grow, and we'll see him again in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Just not as like. We'll see him as a guardian or an Asgardian.
As a principal character, as not the lead character.
No, exactly.
But probably one of the leading characters. As
that's gonna be interesting with a character so powerful. But
yeah, I know. Like you can see it right at the end of Endgame. Like what is the lead, what is the dynamic? that he changes for them.
Yeah, and thank God James Gunn has that script again. Or else
oh my God, Jesus!
Can you imagine?
Imagine that leading into a James Gunn-less Guardians of the Galaxy
with Chris Hemsworth. be fair, Chris Hemsworth's like really good comedian. Like he's really good.
How would you feel in a dark future, not even a dark future, but an alternate future, I should say, that they pull Taiki Waititi for Guardians?
So here's the thing: I like Taiki.
Yeah,
I don't think he's better than James Gunn.
I don't think he's better at James Gunn at doing James Gunn things.
Right. Yeah, they're two different comedic styles. You're totally right. You're totally right.
Yeah.
That's not fair of me to compare the two in such a straightforward manner.
Yeah.
And because I don't like Ragnarok as much as everybody else does.
Yeah.
I think it has like really good comedy.
I would say.
I think it doesn't integrate itself well into the actual plot of Ragnarok.
No, I think it, and plus, absolutely. It's like, it's a bit
of a mess.
It's Ragnarok only in name.
Yeah, in name only. And it doesn't bother me that they don't follow the plot of Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. The problem is that they set it up properly and then they don't follow through on it really well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, like that's just my issue.
They both do very fantastic cosmic Marvel. Between Gunn and Waititi. Very different styles, but close in tone. Quality between, let's just say, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Ragnarok are like neck and neck. I might give a nudge to Gunn for that.
I just think Gunn's structure and like writing structure is a bit more concise.
Yes, I was going to say, at the end of the day, I think that he stays more focused on a plot that has better pace, and it still revolves around the characters a lot better, whereas Waititi sticks to Thor jokes and like a Thor humor, which kind of evokes this kind of like gentle emotionality that kind of like just ebbs throughout the movie.
And that being said, also like Volume 2 is not nearly as strong as Volume 1.
Oh yeah, that's why I said 1. I'm not a huge fan of 2, but still a very fun movie.
2 gets away a lot by having my man No, it's Snake Plissken. Come on, man. Like we should know this. This is gonna get cut.
Kurt Russell.
Having my man Kurt Russell in it really elevates it quite a bit. So so all that aside, we've talked about Thor extensively.
Yeah, so back to Endgame.
Yeah, you know what? I'm calling this second arc. It is the time heist.
Yeah,
but really, when you think about it, it's like our last bit for these original characters.
It's a last hurrah for everything that came before.
Because Rocket is just kind of like plot related. He's not concluding anything in this chapter of in this arc of the movie. Mm-hmm. Moving on to
the final third.
No. I'm sorry. I just want to talk about the other characters first, because that has to do with the Reality Stone.
Gotcha.
The people getting the Soul Stone, Natasha and Hawkeye.
Oh God.
That's a conclusion to their story. What little story they had.
So many mixed emotions with this scene.
It's the one that has the least amount of context leading up to it. Not within the movie, but within the MCU. Because it's Hawkeye and Black Widow.
So they're characters that have never had their own films.
Yeah, never had their own films. Basically exist only within the Avengers series.
And in other films, like,
Iron Man 2 is the only other one that... what's her name?
No, she's in Winter Soldier through the whole movie.
Oh, she's in Winter Soldier as well. But I'm thinking of Hawkeye in particular.
And then they're also both in Civil War.
They are in Civil War. Damn it. I think of Civil War as an Avengers movie. I don't think of it as a Cap movie.
That's fair.
But anyway, I'm sorry. Long story short, these two characters are side characters.
Yeah, heavily. And it's two side characters having like one of the most emotionally turmoil bits in this movie, where they have to determine they have to get the Soul Stone. Like, people have an understanding of their relationship, but it's something that's never had longer than like 10 minutes of screenplay at a time.
Yeah, it's riding entirely on like minute performances.
Yeah, and
it's kind of rough when in comparison to everybody else.
There's that, and there's also just the general layout of the scene, because
it's a repeat of
it's so tight, and then it's an exact repeat of what happened in Infinity War, and that shouldn't inherently mean that it means less, because like the sacrifice can still mean a lot. The music, the framing, and the amount of time it's given is kind of brief. Yeah. It feels a little bit rushed, and like, I was talking about this with someone else. I feel like that moment could have definitely garnered more. But I feel like it doesn't.
At the same time, it still garners something, though.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think that's mixed. Yeah.
Like, I do, even though it's dickish of, what's her name? What's the robot's name again?
The robot? Nebula?
Nebula. It's dickish of Nebula not to tell them
Oh yeah.
That's what they're gonna have to do.
Well, she doesn't have a full understanding.
But at the same time, when Thanos comes back with the Soul Stone,
Yeah,
on the planet, and they go, "Where's Gamora?" And Nebula explains, says he went there with Gamora, and he came back with the Soul Stone. Yeah. She has to know, and like inferring that Gamora's dead now, she has to at least somewhat know.
Yeah, that's a very costly price. And, I mean,
I think it's a slight plot hole.
Probably, yeah.
It's a very slight plot hole. But regardless, these two get sent to get the Soul Stone. The whole audience should know by this point that one of them is going to have to die for this to happen, and we just don't know which. Now, I actually had no idea which one was actually going to take the plunge. I thought it was a 50-50.
Oh, yeah, me too. I was like, this is straight, especially with how they both go for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. Like, there was some tension because I really didn't know who was gonna take the plunge.
Absolutely.
Or at least succeed in taking the plunge.
Yeah. And I thought it was gonna be Hawkeye because Black Widow has a movie coming out, which is now obviously gonna be
it apparently takes place in 2006. And et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I didn't know that. So
now I know. I know about this all post film.
Of course. Okay. So there's that. And also, like, they really set up Hawkeye to be, like, not irredeemable, but, like, in a really bad place before this starts. Like, he is just mercilessly killing criminals, but, like, no regard for life at that point. And he's kind of gone in terms... he's portrayed to be gone.
I felt like they gave him enough focus in this film where I felt like it would have punched people a little bit harder, especially with the opening scene, and then with his reestablishing scene when he's killing all the Yakuza. And he's telling them, exactly what he's become. And, like, then you have this final scene, which could have been his final scene, excuse me.
Yeah.
But instead turns out to be fucking Black Widow's final scene.
Yeah.
And she dies in the same way that Gamora does, like, literally framed the same way, like, body posing. And then it comes and it hits, and it's like, damn, like, it kind of hits in a way that's, like, it's so fast, and I'm thinking, like, did that actually happen?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I almost wanted another... at the Shinto shrine scene where remember when Thanos snaps his fingers and he sees Gamora at the Shinto it's a Shinto shrine, isn't it?
Yeah. Like it's something like that. I know what you mean.
It's very reminiscent, I should say, of a Shinto shrine.
I know what you mean. Yeah. The archway.
Yeah. And
sort of a dream
Gamora.
Sequence.
Yeah. And I know it's not directly correlated with the Soul Stone, but like It was for me, and I thought that was a really great scene.
Yeah, where he's like, did you succeed? And then he's like, what did it cost you?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. But I don't think unfortunately, there wasn't a good place for it to put that kind of scene in this movie.
Yeah.
But I definitely did want to see a bit more of a reaction than what we got.
Yeah, I mean, we got, in general, and this is just overall, as a chain reaction for the film, there isn't too much by way of mourning for Black Widow. You have the moment immediately after where Jeremy Renner wakes up with the stone and he's terribly sad. Then you have the moment where he gets back and everyone's a little bit sad again.
Yeah.
And they talk about like, we'll
bring her
snap her back. And they're like, and Thor, Hulk is the first one to say like, it's not going to happen, not like this. Because Thor's the one who suggests it, and then
Thor suggests it, Hulk dismisses it, and then Hawkeye also dismisses it, being like, "I know."
Yeah, like I know, like these things can't be changed.
I've read the script.
Yes, and so they move forward with the whole building their own Infinity Gauntlet while Nebula does her thing, and the last remnants of her are in that final scene post. Well, it's during Tony's funeral. But she gets a little lakeside moment where Wanda and Hawkeye both have their moment where like Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye can both reminisce about the people they've lost, because she lost Vision and he lost Widow, and that's all they both get as far as like a funeral service is concerned, just a small remembrance, and then that's it. And so
it is nice that those two characters comfort each other, though, because they do have a bit of a repertoire in Ultron
in every film
and in Civil War.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, the relationship is sweet, and it's the thing is too. If you're savvy with like the news and announcements with Disney, like a lot of these survivors don't come as a surprise because Hawkeye is getting a Disney Plus series.
Oh, is he?
Yes,
with Jeremy Renner or
yes. Jeremy Renner,
Good for him. I always like Jeremy Renner.
He's going to be teaching the new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. There's going to be a series for Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Wow.
Which I assume they'll both continue the legacy of Captain America in their own way. Or Sam slowly evolves into what I assume is the accepted Captain America, as he is in the comics. There is a Wanda and Vision series coming out as well, played by exactly who you think. And so I assume they're gonna have to find some way to revive Vision. I don't know if Shuri from Wakanda can do it or whatever they want to decide on. But there's it's called.
It's gonna take something out of the moment they have.
Oh yeah, but there's a lot of post series coming up, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting another. Besides all the films they have coming out.
Honestly, I try to avoid all that stuff just because, like, I want each movie to be, like, self-contained in a way.
Yeah, no.
But yeah. Do we want to talk about the last part of the time heist section? Which is specifically the return to the Avengers first movie and then to 1970?
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, let's bang through that real quick. So,
because those are the conclusions for... not conclusions, but the last... character moments for Tony Stark, Hulk, not Paul Rudd's character, because Paul Rudd's character is like whatever.
Insignificant.
He
gets the job. He's there for utility.
Yeah,
and he's good, and he does his role very charmingly. But like the character moments, there's not a big one for Hulk. He kind of has he's there to explain the logistics of time travel. He goes there to talk to the Sorcerer Supreme, and they talk about, like, oh, I need this. And then she explains, like, you can't just fuck everything up. It's like, well, then if I put it back together. And so he gets that job. Yeah. The real emotional character moments are between Cap and Tony because they have to go back doubly after first they have the fun character moments where they cause a Tony heart attack, and then Cap fights himself. Yeah. And there's a lot of callback lines at America's ass. And then...
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I can do this all day. Those are fun as shit.
Those are awesome.
But then, going back to 1970 and having even better character moments emotionally, where Cap sees Peggy at the original S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and he's like, pining for her behind like a blackout like mirror or screen. And then you have Tony talking to his father, Howard, and asking what it's like to be a father. Or Howard consoling his son about what it's going to be like to be a father. And
it's really playful and it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice that because it's like, it's not forcing Tony to go through what he already did. Because he already kind of like forgave his father.
In Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2.
He came to grips with that.
Yeah, and furthermore in like Civil War, like really establishing that. And it's kind of nice that it's like, it's not a character moment per se in like, a character learning about something, but reaffirming what his where his stance is and what he is like.
And it's interesting because now Tony is a father, and like he's not coming from a place. He's coming from a very learned place now, and a very empathetic place, and an ironic one because of like the relationship he had with his father. But now he's come to a very peaceful place with it, and so far to the way that he can actually console his father. And it's very weird, and so fun, really touching character moments in that final bit of the time heist before they finally conclude and get right back into the final third of the film where they succeed in their own snap, where they get Hulk to wear their own Infinity Gauntlet custom made, and snap and get all the vanished people back at cost to like Hulk's arm, which is a small price to pay before 2014 Thanos shows up.
Yeah, and so now we're in our last arc of the film, which is just the battle.
Yes, which
is
just
war.
The war.
And like, so this one, this arc doesn't have as many acts. It's kind of just like
it's just straight action. Yeah,
it's 1-2. It's like Thanos returns, and we have to fight Thanos, and we have to but we've reassembled the Avengers, and then the aftermath of that.
Yeah. Some bang up moments though.
Oh, it's like it's hard to sell over audio because like it's such a visual
morphine
contextual experience. But yeah, just so much for everybody.
Every moment that happens in the final third of the film could be like the standout moment of any other Marvel film.
Yes.
Thor gripping up both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. That's cool enough. fucking
amping up amping up the Iron Man suit so he can like blast the largest charge ever.
Cap picking up Mjolnir himself. That's a huge moment. Super awesome.
It's so good.
So hyped.
Plus, because he already uses a throwing object, like a throwing weapon.
Oh, like he knows what to do.
Yeah, and now he uses both like in conjunction.
Just fucking throwing them everywhere.
We're doing Marvel combos now. Just
literally Marvel vs. Capcom combos. He's doing them by himself.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's super hype. God, there's so many cool moments. Obviously, the big one is when Cap is like really down and out, and he's getting smashed up. The heroes finally assemble.
Yes, we see the portals open.
Yeah,
and out come everybody,
like everybody ever
from every Avenger movie ever.
Yeah, you've got as Guardians, you've got Wakandan soldiers, you've got like, gosh, I don't.
Everybody left on the planet.
All the sorcerers they have at their disposal, like. Yeah, and every hero that you can imagine.
All come just in time for Thanos, just as Thanos summons his army from his battleship. Yeah. And something like I didn't really expect. I expected the rematch with Thanos, like I think everybody did.
Yeah, of course.
But like I didn't expect it to like this grand a level.
Yeah, I expected it to be kind of like a little bit more intimate, and then when it got like this big, I was like, okay.
But it's a nice escalation because it starts intimate.
Yeah.
It starts with
and it still is
3v1.
Yeah.
And it stays that way, but like it does get to the larger grand battle that we saw back at Wakanda, like, but to an even bigger scale.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You have like the Trinity at first, just kind of like deucing it up with him and failing.
Yeah.
Like Thanos is winning like that fight.
And so like it makes you think like back when he just had the gauntlet, like he really wasn't going all out. He was just like using the power of the stones to do everything.
Yeah, and this one he's stoneless, but he's still winning.
He's armored. He has his weapon, which is in similar structure to the knife that he gave Gamora.
Yeah, the helicopter blade thing that he kind of uses, and it's
of perfect balance.
Yes.
But
it was a hell of a fight that he gave them before the whole army shows up, and oh my god, that moment just like.
Yeah,
that's worth going back for.
Absolutely,
that's probably why I'm going back.
Like, if I do go back, I'll probably just like go in the last hour or so.
Like, I'll sneak into a movie theater. I'm like, "Are you in 2 hours yet?" All right, for work.
Yeah.
Sneak in.
Like, oh man, that fight. So, like, there's all the things we listed.
There's the female
Captain Marvel returns.
Captain Marvel finally
just. Oh god, like
buys it.
There was like, so I've seen this movie with a friend of mine, Dan, and like every time the subject of Captain Marvel comes up, he asks, like, so how strong is Captain Marvel? And it's, like, probably the strongest thing, at least in the cinematic universe right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For free.
For free.
Yeah.
And she just destroys the entire battleship.
Newspaper, coupon cutout, free. Like, there's not even anything within, like, striking distance.
Now, do you find that charming? Because I find that really charming.
Yeah, no, I think that, okay, so here's the thing.
Because I know Mezzo was like poo-pooing it a bit.
For as abrasive as Brie Larson can be outside in the actual life, apparently, in interviews or what have you, I think she's an incredibly charming actress.
Yeah.
I think the character is written very succinctly in this film, in Endgame. And so, no, I think that she comes off very well. I'm not a huge fan of the Captain Marvel film, as you know. I think that it's just an okay film. A serviceable film.
Yeah.
Serviceable film. But no, like a hyper strong character doesn't like distract me because it's not like she's so strong, but it's like not that she still doesn't solve everything instantly.
No. Yeah.
She still needed her whole like her Gal Pal squadron to like get through the whole to do the piercing fucking push that they do right near the end of the film.
For the time machine.
Yeah.
And it leads to a very clever moment of like where she's taking on Thanos 1v1, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. You could see the distress when
because the only time we saw that facial expression from him was when Cap was in Infinity War, preventing him from even closing the gauntlet.
Yeah.
He's like, "What the hell?" And then he just punches Cap away.
Yeah.
And now Captain Marvel shows up, and he's like, "I cannot even fight you."
Yeah.
So he cheats and pulls the power stone and just punches her into the next.
The confusion is when he headbutts her and she doesn't flinch.
Yeah,
and he's just like, wait.
And that's my best move.
Everybody gets to the.
Everybody dies to the headbutt. I took out the Hulk. Well, I'm going to take out the Hulk.
Yeah. And so fucking.
Oh, man.
Yeah, when he pops out the power stone, it's a pretty cool moment. And so no, she's fine. And yeah, a lot of the moments at the end, Spider-Man coming back is fun. Like the little fucking the hot potato of the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Between him and Black Panther and everybody.
Yeah. Even Scarlet Witch gets a really nice moment to show like her strength as well.
Oh yeah, she comes at him hard.
She nearly kills Thanos.
Yeah, she came at him.
If the gunship hadn't been there, she might have ripped him apart.
Yeah, he was about to get that fade. But yeah, no, the final, we could gush over the final scene for a while.
And that's what it kind of is.
That's what it's for.
It's a big gush fest.
It's there to sell, and it succeeds. If you showed me like even like 30 seconds of the finale, as spoiler filled as it is, it would sell the fuck out of the movie to me.
That's what they're doing now.
Yeah, now they are. We were showing you the Instagram ad I saw. I'm like, ooh, this is spoilery, but definitely would get me to go to the movie.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're seeing Gwyneth Paltrow and
in the rescue suit. Yeah,
and that suit looks awesome. It is slick as hell.
Yeah, the blue rescue suit they've made for her. Yeah, it's pretty neato. But yeah, okay, so that's the fight, the mechanical, the physical fight. Awesome. So many awesome moments. Valkyrie blowing through like the fucking giant monsters and shit, and obviously so then there's the actual battle to get the stones, and you got that nice little sweet moment when you're in the precipice of what needs to be done, and the stones are getting closer and closer to Thanos, and you got Doctor Strange with the one
where he looks to Tony,
just gives him the finger that lets him know. Yeah, he's like, because
one shot.
Because he asks him like mid battle. He's like, "So is this it?" He's like, "If I tell you, I can't tell you." And then
if I tell you, you won't.
Yeah,
it won't happen.
Exactly. Like it won't happen. So instead, he just gives him a very subtle as possible.
Moment before, like where Tony knows if he goes for it, this is it.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange tells him, "Yes, this is the one."
Yes.
And it is a good scene.
Yeah. So he.
Like, the Russo brothers still, to this day, are so good at using their cast.
Yeah.
Everybody just nails every scene that they're in. And Benedict Cumberbatch in this, like, that's gonna be a meme. Of him just holding out the finger.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a meme. 1,000,000% is a meme.
And, of course, Tony Stark takes that opportunity to play the old switcheroo.
Yeah, does a very magician-esque steal all the stones. They slip into his armor, and he gets his
snap.
His dope moment, his last "I am Iron Man," and
I didn't love that as a final line, and I might be alone in that.
I think it was fitting. So like you have the iconic phrases that they wanted to put out there. So finally, Cap gets to say, "Avengers assemble."
Yes,
and in a nerd catharsis inside, I'm like, finally,
yeah.
Like, and then so I'm not in love with the phrase "I am Iron Man," but it's definitely like he only said it the one time, and it was very like cavalier. And actually, that was a candid line.
Really?
It's supposed to be a cliffhanger. Actually, how else should I say this? I know that Robert Downey totally fucking workshopped that shit at the end of the film where he admits that he's Iron Man. They didn't plan that. At all. Yeah, I remember there's Kevin Feige interviews.
It's such an interesting moment at the end of the first Iron Man because like every superhero movie before that ends with like the superhero continuing to have to keep their identity like,
and that's what they were going to keep that.
Yeah,
they were going to keep like the mystery of like his identity, and instead Tony or Robert Downey Jr. is like, fuck it, I'm just gonna bootleg this shit right now. And
which is like it made it unique,
and it defined the character for a long time, his public persona as a hero, and so. To finally go back to that line, which has only been said once, in a completely unplanned moment.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But to formally say it, I am Iron Man, I think that it works, especially when in contrast to Thanos' repeated, I am inevitable.
Okay, I can accept it a bit more now. It just it didn't have as much weight for me.
Yeah.
And with that, he snaps his fingers.
Thanos' forces go away. They all get dusted. And
this is what I did like.
I like how Thanos takes it.
How Thanos takes it. There's nothing he can say at this point because he knows he is no longer inevitable. He's in fact now irrelevant.
Yeah,
he does not exist.
And there's no struggle in it either. Is what I really like how he takes it. Yeah. He literally, as soon as the snap happens, he looks at his forces fading away, and he just sits down and just lets it happen because he knows it's over. There's no, I'll get you next time. There's no, you guys will rue the day. It's just a very peaceful, accepted defeat.
Yeah. Still in shock. Like, not like, because like
it's not like he's happy about it or anything.
or not even like, oh, I see now. It's just more like, wow, that's how it ends. Like, and that's what's so satisfying about it, because he's been made out as such a not indestructible, but like unstoppable villainous threat.
Yeah,
and like he actually is now, and that's what's so satisfying about his defeat.
Yeah. That was a good fun conclusion. And then so obviously this leads into our epilogue, more or less, where all the loose ends get tied up and you have the beautiful final moments of Tony Stark as the after effects of the snap leave him basically dead, debilitated, and Pepper gets to go over to him and tell him he can finally rest. He can finally stop with these heroic deeds. Finally, the things that he's been worried about for a decade have finally come to pass, and he succeeded, and he passes. And it's super sad because he's been the fucking crux of this whole thing for years.
Yeah.
And now he's gone, and he has a beautiful ceremony with everybody, his family. Obviously, he has that little message he leaves behind for his family as well.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because of the experience we had in the theater, where somebody's phone went off during this.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about that.
And so, like, I don't know. That last message didn't, like, hit me as hard.
Oh, it didn't hit me that hard either, but
like, I don't know.
It was sweet.
It was sweet, yeah, without a doubt. And it, of course, not hints back, but like plays back to the messages he was recording when he was lost in space earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's a much more hopeful message than the one he left, the one he recorded in space.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of a sign that Tony is at peace, that his mind is at peace, because he actually has hope. In the one in space that he recorded at the very beginning of the movie, he's very dour, very down on himself, very much defeated. And even though the message he records that is played for his family after his death, it's recorded before they even go on the time heist.
Yeah.
But it's much more optimistic. He even says like, oh, there's no way we're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Like, it's very different from Tony, who is not optimistic by nature.
I think that
it's kind of a nice. It is. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, it is much nicer than I gave it credit for.
The family,
fuck that guy's cell phone.
I think the family life and the 5 years removed from the heroing perhaps may have changed his compass a little bit when it came to that sort of thing. A little bit,
but at the same time, it took convincing him to even do the time heist project, because. Yeah, because he doesn't have. I think there was still a measurement of doubt in him until he
knew he could.
Until he magically figures out time travel, which is the only. It's another little like, all right, let's just take it. Just accept. Just accept that he figured out time travel in like a week. Just
people that get upset about things like that, and they get upset like, oh, the battle logistics that they were taking up in Game of Thrones is totally stupid. It's like,
I thought you were going to bring up the Infinity War one, which is one I always roll my eyes
or that too, yeah. It's like, guys, I don't give a fuck about these like small things.
Yeah,
like,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry your life is so sad.
If I'm literally like analyzing formations in a fictional battle between like a bunch of African like futurists, like future tech Africans and aliens, plus a couple of dudes in like mech robots and like a raccoon
with the God of Thunder.
Yeah, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like just have fun. But overall, Tony's story comes to a satisfying conclusion. Same thing with Cap's, more or less. I think his was a little bit, perhaps a little bit more bittersweet in ways, because he does get to go and live his life, and thanks to the power of time travel, go back. Put the stones where they need to be, and gets to have that final dance. He gets to have that final conclusion to his story that he always wanted, live a full life, and then pass off the mantle to his best buddy, well, his second best buddy, Sam.
His non-homicidal best buddy.
Yes. The has never killed anybody innocent best buddy.
Yeah. You'll pick up Mjolnir someday.
Yes.
Not you, Bucky. You'll never.
Yes, you'll never do it, Bucky. You're fucked.
You're fucked forever.
But yeah,
like, I know, friend. I know.
But no, it's a nice ending for Cap too, and so this era has come to an end. All of the characters, all the original Avengers have basically gone to the Four Winds. Because you've got Tony who's passed, Cap who will inevitably pass due to old age now, Hawkeye who's kind of turned it down. Hulk
who's like incapacitated, not incapacitated, sorry, but he's like handicapped.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
his arm's fucked up.
Yeah, so I mean, there's still potential for the Hulk, but I mean, I don't know.
He's also Banner at this point, so he doesn't have as much like rage.
Yeah, he's Professor Hulk at this point now, so we'll see what they make of that character. Thor looks like the only one that will be continuing his adventures.
But even then, not as King of Asgard, but as a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, so he's going through a new phase, and obviously Black Widow has passed. So the original 6 have dissolved, and now we're going into this new uncharted era of Marvel for the first time in like a decade. We really don't have a nucleus to really rally behind that we're familiar with. There's so many characters now. The tapestry is so large, but its center is gone. You know, you don't have those core the core group that we're used to. Now we're gonna have to look to like Black Panther or Captain Marvel to rally around, or you know.
But at the same time, they don't like have a repertoire with each other yet.
No, they don't have, and that's what I like to see, where they want to take quote unquote phase 4, because it'll all lead up into some sort of culmination, some sort of event, I assume, as they've been doing. But what is that event? How will they organize it? And with the new logistics of the Fox merger and the characters that they've acquired, where will they take it? I imagine...
if we can speculate, I imagine, and like this is speculation coming from a guy who doesn't know the comics all that well.
Yeah.
I know the highlights and the controversies that come from them, but other than that, no.
Yeah.
I would like to see, like, because right now this has been like, everything has been around like Tony trying to save humanity from the threat that's out there. That's how the whole cinematic universe has been going. Like, whenever it's in space, it's about the threat that's out there and how it could eventually reach Earth or something like that. And when it's on Earth, it's about the threats that are appearing on Earth, as well as like dealing with those that are coming to Earth. I would like to see maybe like how we're going to start like reaching out there, like how now Earth expands. Because remember, we're set in 2024 now.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Yeah. So we're now in the future in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yep, essentially.
Yeah.
And so, in lieu of that, where I think it'll go is that first they will establish, as soon as possible, I imagine by 2022, we will have plans for, or have it physically produced, a Fantastic Four film by Marvel. Marvel's first family. For a lot of reasons. One, they're just a straight explorer story, which works.
Yeah.
Very simply, I think it would be applied. It would translate very well into this market. I feel like they would finally do it right. Two, it's, for a lot of people don't realize that it's Stan Lee's first book, and it's his best book. Like when Marvel was shuttering, and he was about to when Stan Lee was editor-in-chief of Marvel, way back in like he was for a while, but when he was originally back in like the 60s, and like they were on the brink. His wife convinced him to do one more story, so he enlists Jack Kirby, and they're like, let's do a story. And boom, Fantastic Four happens, and it blows up, and it goes from there. They just, like a runaway freight train, everything else pops out from their creativity. Thor, Iron Man, et cetera, Captain America. Well, Captain America had been back for a while, but you get what I mean. And so I think that Fantastic Four would be a nice place for them to start, because
they have an inherent, like, space exploration to them, don't they?
They do. And their foe, or at least their most notable foe besides Doctor Doom, which would be fantastic to bring in, as he's one of my favorite antagonists in Marvel, it would be Galactus, I think, as the next big bad in the Marvel Universe. I think that would be a very prudent move for them, and setting that up for the next few years, I think, would be the best option.
That would be interesting, especially, like, because what I just mentioned is, like, because I don't want it to just be, we have to keep defending the Earth. That's going to get boring after a while. I want it to be like, we're trying to make claims out in space. We're trying to move forward as the human race, and people just keep,
I think
forces at bay try to keep us back or whatever.
Announced. I think there is a film for the Eternals coming out, which is a Marvel film coming out.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting.
So I
don't know much about the Eternals.
Yeah, and even neither do I, honestly. We're getting into like really deep cut cosmic Marvel, which I think they're finding is a good market.
Yeah.
So we'll see where they take it. I think that that's even more a reason why they'll go into Galactus as their main villain, because he's just the epitome of that, and he's probably the biggest bad that they have as far as scale is concerned.
Right.
The dude just eats planets, like, it's a world eater.
Yeah.
And he's not in, I like the sort of gray moral compass that they gave Thanos at times.
Yes.
Where he was where he seemed sympathetic, where he's doing this because he believes it's right, and you can almost believe him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same way with Galactus. Galactus isn't like a malicious character that's just going around eating worlds for the sake of it. He's cursed with this hunger. Like, he doesn't want it, but he has to satiate it.
Right.
So,
like, as a survival thing.
Yeah, essentially, like he's doomed to eat worlds.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't remorsefully do it either, but like he's kind of rather ambivalent about it.
Okay, it'd be hard to write it that way in a humanistic way, but like I'm sure if they have enough talent there, they can.
It's hard because it's essentially just fighting God, like at that point, like in a way.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we'll see. We have Captain Marvel now.
Yep.
It seems like she can do anything.
So, I think that they'll with their new licensing power, they'll probably do Fantastic Four. I don't think that they'll be doing X-Men for a long
I don't think so.
time.
I think the X-Men. You know what? That might be the next like short series stuff.
Yeah, that's gonna be dead and buried for a minute, I think.
But similar to like Daredevil and stuff like that. X-Men fit in that category a bit better. Outside of Phoenix, which is just a Fox movie that's just going to come out soon anyway.
Yeah, it's going to come out just for the sake of coming out. The only quote-unquote X-Men film that will probably not be taken off the block is Deadpool, because it's Deadpool and it's making too much money and Disney can't resist. And I wouldn't blame them. It's working, and why would you stop?
I'm interested to hear that, because that's going to be an R-rated movie. Has Disney ever made an R-rated movie?
They've already gone on record saying that they wouldn't change anything about Deadpool.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're like, it's working. Why would we change it?
That's interesting.
So, I think that they will not skew too far from that. And yes, I know what you mean. Disney probably being a part of an R-rated production is kind of like...
They just wouldn't put their name on it as prevalently.
Yeah, but I don't think that they would change Deadpool too much. I think that it's working, and I think they're willing to accept that.
Yeah.
And they're smart. They'll find ways to distance like the family-friendly aspects of Disney from it.
Absolutely.
But all in all, the future looks bright, and it is interesting because we're in uncharted territory finally. So there's never been an unclear focus about where the Marvel universe is heading. This is for the first time, just kind of finding our way again. Because like the Phase 1 was leading into just the Avengers and like the collective threat, but you didn't know about the overarching Infinity Saga that was planned.
Yeah. So
I imagine this Phase 4 will be kind of like that, like finding your way towards the threat, and then the next two phases being finding your way to defeat it. So
I hope they find a way to prevent staleness.
Oh, fatigue! Superhero fatigue is real. And
dude, if Infinity War hadn't been as good as it was, that might have been it for me. I might have not lost my interest.
For me, it's like Westerns dominated the market in film for 2 decades at least.
Yeah.
From the 50s to the 70s, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And it's that's what hero movies are today. A very malleable genre that kind of has a bunch of other genres interplaying with them. It's almost a medium at this point.
Yeah, if they were more exploratory with it, I'd agree.
I would say Logan is a Western.
You're right, because I'm only thinking of Marvel movies, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Logan is a Western, it's a
superhero movie.
But it's a superhero movie, but it's the old gun, going out for one last ride.
Yeah.
And so there's all sort of, The Dark Knight is one of the better noir films that we've ever seen.
True.
But yeah, no, it should be interesting to see how long this can last and how long they'll try to push it for.
I think Marvel is going to have to be more experimental.
I mean, it sounds like they're willing to go there, go places.
Which is great. It's
obviously
what they'll need. They can't just they can't bank on more Captain Marvels.
No, they can't bank on more of these social justice, how
I don't want to call it social justice.
You know what I mean, though.
I'm not saying it for your sake. I'm saying it for the audience sake.
It's a catch-all phrase, but things like Black Panther, things like Captain Marvel, things that kind of are rallying cries for, I don't know, representation, I should say, maybe?
Which did need to happen.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But they are doing one more.
Which is
supposedly going to be Shang-Chi, which is going to be an all-Asian...
Oh, that's going to sell like hotcakes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Crazy Rich Asians, did stupid well.
Yeah, so Shang-Chi apparently is being fast-tracked at Marvel. It doesn't have a hard timeline yet as far as when it'll be produced and when it'll be put out, but I assume in the next 3 to 4 years, a Shang-Chi movie will be hitting screens. and it will probably be making a shitload of money, and it will be that all Asian, because the Asian market for Marvel is huge. China, Japan,
yeah,
gigantic. The international pull for Endgame is really where the money is coming from.
Yeah, it's like 2/3 of it, I think.
Oh, at least.
Yeah,
at least.
And so so now we just kind of have to once we hit all of our markets, all of our consumers.
I mean, in general, yeah.
I feel they are going to have to be more experimental. And I know for me personally, as a white male, unqualified to have opinions on anything, I'm gonna need stories that are not just superhero stories, that are not just Marvel superhero stories. Because for a while it's like, well, as long as it's not a beginner's tale or whatever, what are they called? Like
origin story?
Origin. I'm sorry. As long as it's not an origin story, it's great. It's original. It's fantastic. And it's like, no, that doesn't excuse you.
Yeah.
You need to be actually a interesting story. Like,
we'll see how creative they can be with the writing, and so we'll probably theorize about this longer another time. But overall, what were your final thoughts on Endgame?
Final thoughts are, why does Cap? So Cap goes back to Agent Carter, right?
Yes.
Why in Civil War did he make out with
her niece?
Her niece. Because that's fucked up now.
Yeah.
At first I was like he was moving on.
Yeah.
And now he's going back again.
Well, I mean, you didn't have time travel back then.
It's like, get off the drug.
No.
It's like, oh, now I can do heroin because I have narc. or whatever it's called. The anti-heroin.
Yeah.
It's like, no. I thought you got over this gap.
No, he didn't. It's always been the dream, you know. Even if I can have, like, substitute drug, I always want actual drug. So... No, but that's, I'm sure that'll cost him like a week on the couch for, I don't know, fucking her great niece or whatever. I don't know. But he'll be okay. If it ever comes to light.
So, that's something you don't bring up. That's like the amount of people you've slept with before marriage. It's like you just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But actual last thoughts, because I have no more funny comments.
Oh.
I was really hoping I did, but I don't.
My final thoughts, super, super satisfying, incredibly hype, emotional, at times a little bit jumbled, at times a little bit cringy. Some moments were not, like, they didn't hit for me.
Oh, okay.
Like, like the Hulk Ant-Man photo op moment is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I know it's like Hulk's reintroduction. I was like, oh, look, it's like Banner, but
oh god, I forgot about that. Yeah. Just take the picture. No, just take the picture. Yeah. Do that 10 times.
I'm like, if you have this scene a little bit, you can give Black Widow some development before she dies.
Oh no! Do you want to take a picture with me, guys? Who?
Yeah.
Actually, who?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because you do all covert shit, so you're not a hero.
Yeah. So, but no, overall, the film is a really good film. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Solid, super fun time. Would watch again. More of an event than a film, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Because
that's what it wants to be.
Yeah, because the superheroes, and Marvel in particular, has just planted itself in our cultural norms for the last 10 years.
It doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
Nope, it is here to stay.
Yeah.
It's going to take something.
I'll one-up you there, and I'm going to say it's a solid 9 out of 10 on rethinking stuff like that, because I think it's actually very well executed. I like that. The cringe of that scene that you just mentioned and the Fortnite are the only like minor bad points.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's a really impressive film for what it's trying to be. If it's that like 3 arc thing, it's like it's not supposed to be a concise film. It's supposed to be like a 3 episode movie, and it's like we've seen like some animated features try to do that and like fail miserably because they expect you to have the context of everything going up to this. And so does this one, but for some reason it works a lot better. Whether it's because it reminds you enough about what's important before it requires that context, or whether just because it's Marvel and it's a lot easier to consume 10 films than it is to consume 1,000 episodes.
Perhaps, yeah.
But like it does what a lot of other movies would probably stumble and fall at really, really well. So that gets a solid 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, this is definitely a feat of directing for the brothers, and this film has less just
as well as planning for the whole market, for the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe,
for the Marvel team
Kevin
at large.
Feige.
Yeah, for Mr. Feige.
I really hope I'm saying that right, because he's apparently a really nice guy.
Yeah, big ups to him, big ups to the whole team. And for me, just to clarify, it's not so much faults as so much as like untapped potential in other moments. I feel like I find myself yearning for, but overall, yeah, a super successful film, and it was a great time.
But
we will watch again.
We will, well, maybe. But until then, we're gonna continue watching anime.
Yes, time to go back to our
put back our Nippon headbands.
Yes, back to Hikikomori life. We went outside for this, and I don't think we can stand to do it again for anything else in the near future.
Very nice.
So we hope you guys enjoyed listening. We hope you guys had some thoughts about your Endgame experiences you could share with us in contrast to our own. Let us know if you shared some of our ideas. Maybe you thought that we were completely retarded and you want to let us know with some very thoughtful comments down below. Please do so. Like if you had a good time. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, all the good stuff. And of course, have a good day, have a good life. We will see you all next time.